World War II, the deadliest war in human history. World War II lasted from September 1st, 1939 to September 2nd, 1945. Estimated death toll of World War II was between 70 and 85 million. It was without a doubt possibly the most chaotic and brutal and psychotic and absolute maniacal war in human history. Lots of people suffered because of it. The two sides in World War II were called the Allies and the Axis. The Allies mainly consisted of Britain, the Soviet Union, America, Poland, France, rest in peace, China, Canada, Australia, and Italy after switching sides again. Axis mainly consisted of Nazi Germany, Japan, Italy, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, and Finland. But how did this mess all happen? The date is June 28th, 1919. After Germany had lost World War I, the Treaty of Versailles was signed, and Germany had to pay reparations, lose territory, lose colonies, and disarm. It was an absolute humiliation for the Germans. Now, the world was in a pretty chaotic state. Polarization was everywhere. Communism rised in Russia, with the help of Lenin, and in Italy, Mussolini's fascist action was starting to take over. It seemed like in Germany, things were going down a similar path as well. There was chaos on the streets, the government was in a massive debt. It was just horrible for the Germans. However, the Americans, being the smart businessmen that they were, came up with an idea called the Dawes Plan. Essentially, it went like this. America would lend money to Germany to help build their economy. Germany would then pay reparations to the Allies. The Allies would then pay back war loans to America and import goods from America to help build back their country. This cycle essentially ensured that Germany would help get money and help pay the reparations, essentially. America would also benefit from this, and so would the Allies, and at the end of the day, everything would be good. The German economy slowly started to get back on track. But then, on August of 1929, the Great Depression happened. The whole world went into a massive recession. After all the chaos and all the suffering and all the economic and political disruption going on in the country, eventually speaking, the Germans had enough. They became radical, and on January 30, 1933, Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany. On March 12th of 1938, Germany invaded Austria, pretty easily. On March 15th of 1939, Germany invaded Czechoslovakia, with resistance but still pretty easily. Allies didn't like this. Germany then eyed up Poland. If Germany were to invade Poland, the Allies would have enough and they would declare war on Germany. Now, Germany did not want to have to fight a war on two fronts again, because that didn't work out to plan last time. So, they made a non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union, known as the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, essentially meaning that Poland and a bunch of other smaller countries would be split into two by the Germans and the Soviets. On September 1st, 1939, Poland is invaded by Germany. On September 3rd, 1939, Britain and France officially declare war on Germany, and with this, World War II started. September 17th, 1939, the USSR helps invade Poland. Poland has officially fallen. Now, the Soviet Union later that year started to fight its own kind of war too, called the Winter War against the Finnish. On March 13th of 1940, a peace treaty was signed by Finland and the USSR, ending the Winter War. Nazi Germany noticed the USSR's weakness. On April 9th, 1940, Germany invades Norway through Denmark and takes control of their main cities. On May 10th, 1940, Churchill becomes the Prime Minister of Britain. On that same day, Belgium and Netherlands get invaded. And France also gets invaded, funny enough. The Germans, using Blitzkrieg, which is when you attack an enemy's weak point with max strength and speed, defeated France. On June 22nd of 1940, France officially surrendered. Rest in peace. All that was left was the British. On July 10th of 1940, Battle of Britain begins. The Germans make plans for an invasion of Britain. The British held their positions strong. They blocked a German invasion of Britain. This really pissed off Hitler and the Nazis. On October 31st, 1940, the Battle of Britain officially ended, and Germany could not take over Britain. But World War II wasn't just happening in Europe. It was also happening in Asia. Japan had been recently building an empire. During World War II, they sided with the Axis powers. During World War II, Japan took a lot of land from different countries, including China, Southeast Asia, and even parts of Oceania. During World War II, Japan launched a series of invasions into the mainland of China, where they committed some absolute atrocities, which we'll get to later. Japan was doing very good in the war, alongside Germany at this point in time. During the late 1940s and early 1941, almost all of Europe was occupied by the Nazis. A lot of countries in the Balkan region and in the southeast part of Europe either got invaded by the Nazis and taken over, or they had to side with them. On June 22nd of 1941, Operation Barbarossa begins and the Soviet Union is invaded by Nazi Germany. The Soviets were not prepared for this. Blitzkrieg after blitzkrieg, the Germans pierced into the heart of the Soviet mainland. The Germans were surrounding Moscow. It seemed like all hope was lost for the Allies. Until the winter came. The Soviets were equipped to fight in the winter, and on December 6th of 1941, a Soviet Union counteroffensive was started. The next day, on December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor is attacked by Japan. The next day after that, America enters World War II against the Japanese. On June 28, 1942, a new German offensive is launched into the Soviet Union. This offensive focused more on the Caucasus region, which was filled with oil, which was needed for the Germans. In early 1943, a Soviet counteroffensive starts again. During 1943, Italy switched sides, of course. Mussolini is deposed. On June 6, 1944, D-Day happens, and the Allies arrive in beaches in France to liberate it. During the year of 1944, the Axis powers were getting pushed by all angles, a repeat of World War I. Things were getting desperate for the Germans, and on December 16, 1944, a final German offensive was launched called the Battle of the Bulge. But it seemed like all hope was lost. April 16, 1945, the Soviets were encircling Berlin, and again, the Allies were pushing into the Axis powers at all angles. On April 30th, 1945, all hope was officially lost. Hitler and his wife committed suicide, and on May 7th, 1945, Germany officially surrendered. All that was left was to stop Japan. America had been secretly working on this special weapon called the nuke. On August 6, 1945, a nuke was dropped on Hiroshima, and on August 9, 1945, a nuke was dropped on Nagasaki. On September 2, 1945, Japan officially surrendered and World War II ended. So, obviously during World War II, there was a little bit of war crimes, of course. There was the Holocaust, which took 11 million lives of non-Aryan people, mainly Jews, Slavs, Poles, Gypsies, and mentally and physically handicapped. The Japanese committed the Rape of Nanking, which lasted from 1937 to 1938, in which thousands of people were raped. They also committed horrible human experiments in Unit 731, which is so brutal that I would have to make my own video on it. The Soviets did some things to Baltic people, which, consisted of the Lithuanians, the Estonians, and the Latvians. And of course, I can't forget the fact that America dropped 2 nukes. Let's not forget about that one. During World War II, lots of famous and important guns were used. The Americans used the M1 Garand. They also used the Colt M1911. The French used the Moss 38 and the Lebel Model 1886. The Soviets used the Mosin Nagant Model 1891/1930 and the PPSH-41. The British used the Lee Enfield Mark III and the Enfield No. 2 Mark I. The Germans used the Mauser 98K and the Gewehr 43. They also used the infamous STG-44. The Japs used the Arisaka Type 38 and the Nambu 8mm pistol. And of course, the Italians used the Breda M30. Famous tanks to be used in World War II included the M4 Sherman by the Americans, the Tiger I by the Germans, the Panzer IV also by the Germans, and the infamous Churchill tank, which was by obviously the British. Famous warplanes used during World War II included the Messerschmitt Bf 109 by the Germans, the Supermarine Spitfire by the British, the Hawker Hurricane also by the British, and the P-51 Mustang by the Americans. Mustangs are awesome. Famous battleships used during World War II include the Yamato by the Japanese, the USS Missouri by the Americans, the HMS Vanguard by the British, and of course the infamous Bismarcks used by the Nazis.